The Seattle Seahawks just dropped a 41-6 beating on the San Francisco 49ers in a January playoff game, and the entire league felt it. This wasn't some close battle that came down to the final drive. This was one of the biggest favorites in the NFC looking completely lost from the opening kick. Nobody saw this kind of dominance coming, not this clean, not this total, and now every other team left has to ask themselves the same quiet question. What happens if they walk into Lumen Field next? Here's what made it so scary. From the very first play, Rashid Shaheed took the kickoff and sliced straight through the coverage, setting a tone that never let up. Kenneth Walker kept pounding the run game, turning basic handoffs into huge gains that wore the defense down. Sam Darnold, playing through a sore oblique, stayed calm in the pocket, made the right throws when it mattered, and never let the injury slow him down. Then the defense showed up hungry, pressuring Brock Purdy on every dropback and shutting down Christian McCaffrey before he could get started. Mid-season additions like Ernest Jones turned into instant impact players, and the whole thing just clicked. But it all started with one single moment that flipped the night before most people even settled into their seats. That opening spark didn't just give Seattle great field position, it handed the 49ers a deficit they never recovered from. And it came from a unit a lot of teams still sleep on. Let's go back to that very first play and see exactly how the tone got set for everything that followed. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Seahawks and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. The playoff lights are bright, the crowd is already loud, and on the very first kickoff of the game, Rashid Shaheed catches the ball deep, hits one cut, and explodes straight up the field for a huge return. That single play didn't just flip field. Position, it sucked the air out of the visiting sideline before the defense even stepped out. One burst, one roar from the stands, and suddenly the 49ers were chasing the game instead of controlling it. What made it even bigger was how the 12s fed off that moment and never let the energy drop. Lumen Field turned into pure chaos. Every tackle hit harder because of the noise. Every third down felt impossible for the offense across from them. That return handed Seattle's units short fields all night, forcing San Francisco to play desperate while the home team stayed in complete control. It wasn't just a good start, it felt like the building itself decided the outcome early. And the craziest part is that spark came from a phase most teams treat as an afterthought. Special teams turned into a real weapon, setting up the offense with easy chances to pile on points. That's exactly what happened next, because once the run game got rolling, the 49ers had no way to slow it down. Let's look at how those ground gains completely broke their spirit. Once that early momentum settled in, Seattle never let the foot off the gas, and it all came through a ground attack that just kept coming in waves. Kenneth Walker took handoff after handoff and turned them into punishing gains, hitting holes hard, cutting sharp, and always falling forward for extra yards. The 49ers defense, one of the proudest units in football, started looking tired, frustrated, like they couldn't find an answer to the constant pressure. The line led the charge, with Charles Cross and the rest of the front sealing edges and pushing back defenders to open those lanes. Zach Charbonnet brought the early power shots, softening the middle before Kenneth Walker came in with the speed to exploit the gaps. Drive after drive, Seattle stacked first downs, ate up clock, and forced San Francisco to tackle over and over without ever getting a break. It wasn't flashy, but it was brutal, and by the second half, the field felt smaller for the home team and endless for the visitors. This kind of control doesn't happen without someone steering it all with perfect timing. The quarterback had to manage every snap, pick the right moments, and keep everything steady even when his body wasn't at full strength. That's what took this performance to another level. So let's talk about how Sam Darnold pulled it off while barely practicing all week. All week leading up to the game, the big worry circled around the quarterback spot, with Sam Darnold barely throwing in practice and moving gingerly because of that sore oblique. Everyone waited for a flinch, a rushed decision, or some sign that the pain would force mistakes in a playoff spotlight. Instead, he stepped in and ran the offense like the injury was just noise in the background, keeping his feet clean and his eyes downfield no matter how close the rush got. The defining play came in the red zone when pressure collapsed fast. Yet Sam Darnold drifted away from the hit and floated a perfect touch pass to Jackson Smith-Njigba in a spot only his guy could grab it. That throw wasn't about raw arm strength. It was about feel, timing, and trusting the read even while falling off balance. Moments like that quieted any doubt on the sideline and showed a quarterback who understands exactly what the moment needs, not what looks flashy. This poised version of Sam Darnold unlocks so much more for the team, letting coaches build plans around efficiency instead of forcing big risks. He managed the game, protected the ball, and gave his playmakers every chance to shine without ever putting extra strain on his body. But while he kept the offense humming, another unit across the field was turning in a performance that truly stole the night. So let's break down how the defense completely took over. While the offense kept piling up points, the defense put on a clinic that made one of the league's top attacks look ordinary all night long. Brock Purdy hardly had time to set his feet, with pressure coming quick and clean on nearly every dropback. Christian McCaffrey, a player who usually finds ways to flip games single-handedly, got met at the line and wrapped up before he could turn small gains into explosions. The front led by DeMarcus Lawrence and Leonard Williams collapsed pockets without needing constant blitzes, forcing resets and hurried decisions every series. Ernest Jones attacked the ball relentlessly, stripping it once and later jumping a route for a pick that killed another drive. In the secondary, Julian Love filled lanes in space, Devin Witherspoon erased quick throws and screens, and Nick Emenwari covered ground everywhere, keeping the whole unit connected and disciplined. This group didn't just get stops, they created swings that fed the entire team's momentum. Promising plays turned into empty possessions or outright gifts for the offense, wearing down the visitors mentally as much as physically. And a lot of that edge traces back to moves the front office made during the season that flew under the radar at first. So let's uncover how those additions turned into absolute difference makers. Those mid-season picks looked quiet when they happened, but now they stand out as the kind of smart additions that shift entire playoffs. Bringing in Rashid Shaheed gave the return game a real threat capable of changing games in one play. Adding Ernest Jones injected a linebacker who hunts the ball and delivers hits that force mistakes from even the best offenses. Both fit straight into what Seattle wants to be, creating sudden shifts on special teams and defense that hand the offense better starting spots. These weren't headline-grabbing splashes, yet they turned phases that used to feel average into edges that punish opponents over 4 quarters. The front office spotted the exact pieces needed, and against San Francisco, those moves paid off in full view. Even better, the big lead let coaches see how the depth holds up when key names take a seat. Zach Charbonnet had that knee worry, Charles Cross stepped off with a lower body issue, and backups like Amari Kite jumped in at tackle without the protection breaking down. The whole night became a confidence builder, proving the roster runs deeper than most realized. With reports coming back encouraging on those injuries, this team heads forward stronger than before, so let's look at the health picture and what matchups could come next. Coming out of a game that lopsided, most teams would brace for bad injury news, but Seattle caught a huge break with reports that looked far better than anyone feared. Zach Charbonnet's knee checks came back clean, no structural damage at all. Charles Cross leaving the field turned out to be mostly precautionary, nothing that points to a long absence. Sam Darnold finished the night without making that oblique worse, giving trainers real time to get him closer to full strength. That cushion from the blowout meant starters took fewer hits in the second half, letting the staff manage workloads and give the body extra days to heal. The depth already showed it can hold the line, with replacements stepping in seamlessly and keeping the performance level high. Heading into the next round, this group carries momentum plus a healthier roster than almost anyone else still playing, which flips the usual January worries into a clear advantage. Now, the path gets interesting, because the likely opponents bring completely different tests straight into that same loud building. If it's the Rams, Matthew Stafford loves to sit back and carve up zones with rhythm throws, but this pass rush has shown it refuses to let quarterbacks get comfortable. If it's the Bears, Caleb Williams brings that fourth quarter spark and creativity, yet he'd face a defense that just spent a full game smothering runs and chasing throws into mistakes. Either way, the crowd and the scheme give Seattle real edges. But here's what makes them truly frightening when you zoom all the way out on the bracket. Look across the entire playoff field, and the usual big names have already started falling, leaving younger quarterbacks trying to make their mark. With Denver and Bo Nix already out, the cross-bracket threats boil down to teams led by C.J. Stroud in Houston and Drake May up in New England, both talented and dangerous on any given play. Those offenses can strike fast and steal moments, no question, but neither carries a defense playing at the level Seattle just displayed or a home atmosphere that swings games on its own. What sets the Seahawks apart right now is how every phase feeds the others, from sudden changes to clock control to pressure that never stops coming. They have turned into the most balanced group still standing, the one that forces opponents to play a perfect game just to stay close. This isn't hype talking. It's what showed up on film against one of the NFC's best. And it's why the conversation has flipped from doubting them to wondering who can actually match up over 4 full quarters. This version of Seattle looks built for whatever January throws next, with an identity locked in and a belief that's only growing. They aren't chasing attention anymore, they're the team everyone else has to game plan around. So tell me in the comments, can this run keep rolling all the way? Do the Seahawks have what it takes to turn this warning shot into something even bigger? Drop your thoughts. Hit that like button if you're feeling the momentum, subscribe and turn notifications on, because the playoffs are just getting started.